Hello, hello, hello. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. I think because I dared to do some music yesterday, and I think something happened with my audio setup. So I have to do my intro all over again. If you're tuning in for the first time, I have been working as a commercial game designer for a few years now, and that means I just haven't really spent much time on my own projects. So I started messing around with this little platformer concept a few months ago, and it's the first hobby project where for a while I've got to a point where I think it's worth pursuing. So I've scheduled these streams every Tuesday for the next month. Normally what I do on my channel is playing other people's games and giving them design feedback, but I'm sort of trying to put my money where my mouth is as a designer and make sure I'm working on my own thing at the same time. So every Tuesday this month I will be doing this dev stream. You know, I'm working on the game in between those points as well, but just so I've got something regular to work on myself. And I've done a few of these now. People seem to like it. They find it fun, like kind of a chill hang time. So I'll be on for like 2 hours today, and I'm going to be trying to balance some annoying stuff that I need to do that isn't very fun to watch. And then if I get through some of that, then I will do some more fun stuff, which is mainly going to be doing some pixel art and making some more kind of cooking recipes for my game, because it's a weird mix of things. It's like someone described it as cozy horror in our Discord recently, and I don't think that's completely wrong, because you're basically playing a sort of adventure platformer where you're building the rooms as you go, and you've got all this cutesy stuff like a little gnome who you can sell a carrot to. Oh, I accidentally put the carrot in the cooking pot, which is actually one of the things I need to fix, is stopping people from trying to cook before the pot is lit. Yeah, you've got all this kind of cutesy cozy stuff, but then you've also got dungeons and you've got sort of cosmic horror. So it's kind of landing in Adventure Time territory at the moment, which is cool, because that's very much my bag. Hello, Mr. Gnome Man. I just sold him some sort of horrible monster egg. I've also got a bug with the gnome at the moment where he gives out amounts of coins that are very inconsistent with what I set him to give out. But yeah, I got a bunch of playtesting. Well, 2 people actually on our Discord did some playtesting for me and gave really thorough feedback. And some of that was just like stuff I already knew was a problem, stuff that I knew was undercooked that I sort of planned to work on already. And some of it was more fundamental stuff to do with like the controls and the movement and stuff like that. So I'm going to be fixing some of that, or at least doing the kind of... There's some sort of no-brain stuff, like button mapping, that I can do pretty quickly. So I'm going to do some of that this morning. And then we'll move on to doing some visual stuff. I got sick of the goat always falling off the ledge, because you used to only get the goat in the chasm. So I made a new room called the pasture, where you get 2 goats. And it's a little bit easier. I also added in these signs that you can read, and they tell you helpful things like that. That's a terrible graphic. I will redo that graphic, but the thing is, doing pixel art at this size, I really need to do it on my tablet with my pen, and so I will come back to that later. But yeah, I'm going to make one background like this that is a sign that I can put information into the environment with, and another one that's like a book on a lectern, and then that allows me to have like rooms that are primarily there for information. And I quite like that. And you know, Blueprints is obviously one of the inspirations for this. If you've played Blueprints, it's like a room drafting puzzle game, and one of the things I like that they do in that is that they sort of split out the clues from where you would use them. So there's like a library room that gives you clues for the rest of the game, and you don't, you know, it means you might have a little bit of a gap between finding something and knowing what it does, because you need some other place to sort of tell you what it does. That's going to be frustrating for some people, but I think it's fine for the type of game this is, which is like a discovery-driven game about finding stuff out for yourself. I don't always want there to be like a new mechanic. You walk into a room and the game is just like, hey, I've got rid of my. Sorry, I had a debug button that let me restart the level automatically, but I don't think I've taken it out for when I built for itch. Yeah, I don't want to always have it so you like walk into a room and there's a new mechanic and it's immediately explained to you, you know? I've also done some experiments with the reactive music, so at the moment that like melodic part you might be able to hear. It's probably very quiet. I'll turn it up a bit. The drums basically play until you run out of keys, and then they stop, and that gives you a nice sort of time to go home moment. And then the melodic part comes in the more green rooms you build. And then there's scary music if you build lots of red rooms, which I think is quite nice. But my intention is to, you know, once I got this to a point where I'm really sort of starting to be happy with it and sure it's something I want to work on for like a year or so, then I'm going to start getting some musicians attached. It feels very much like Dungeon Synth would work very well for this because of the style of it already. I guess what I'm trying to do is really something that isn't like a full-blown retro game. Like, it looks a little bit like how you might remember a ZX Spectrum game or something, and it evokes that, but it's really kind of playing on what the memory of that thing would be rather than the actual thing, because... Hi Bunchar, yeah, this is my game. So this month I'm doing my own dev streams on Tuesdays, just to see how that goes. It's a very different. It's different from what I normally do on the channel, but I'm also aware that there are people out there who are just like, "Oh, you've never made and released a game entirely on your own. I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say because I only care about successful solo developers saying stuff." So it's partly that, and partly just because I do quite enjoy programming. I'm not very good at it. And this project has already like been way more sophisticated than I was ready for, because like having a platformer where you've got all these additional features like dropping through the platforms, carrying objects around, it is quite a I found it quite a challenge, and I've already had to like get someone else to help me out with quite a lot of rewriting of certain bits of code. So I don't know, it's just going to get more and more tangly the longer I spend on it, but I've got help. I am having trouble switching between programs. I'm just going to have to close GameMaker and open it again, I think. That's cool. Getting the Dungeon Synth samples from the chat. GameMaker doesn't want to play nice with Streamlabs today, I don't think. There we go. Okay, so I have a little to-do list on my Trello. And there's like stuff on here that is... The fun thing I want to do, really, is this. Because I learnt this recently. Drawing pixel art food is really fun and soothing. So my intention is to do a couple of things I don't want to do, and then reward myself by doing some food. Because I do have a cooking system in this game that is like, you add two things to a cauldron and then it kind of makes a microwave ping noise and a thing pops out. And currently the only use for that is if you sell the ingredients, they're not worth much, and if you sell the thing you cooked, it's worth a lot more. I eventually want to have a game loop where if you carry a recipe you've cooked back through the level and through the portal, you take it back to the wizard, and then the wizard gives you something. The wizard's like your boss. So I kind of think I'd like to close that loop soon, because it's there as a kind of intention thing. So getting these things finished would be good. So the idea at the moment is, because I want a resource that upgrades. Whenever you take the wizard a type of food that he hasn't had yet, you get another one of your heart containers. So you've got like the heart container upgrade thing that you get in Zelda games, and you get in Cult of the Lamb and stuff like that. But we're doing that by doing the kind of cooking part of this game, which is inadvertently turning it into the 80s trapdoor game. But I don't think anyone is going to be bothered by me plagiarizing a obscure microcomputer game based on an obscure British claymation show. So I'm going to do some of the stuff that isn't so fun, get it done very quickly, and then reward myself by doing the stuff that I do want to do, which is generally how I try to work. I have stuff that is like quality of life stuff that I know needs doing that I'm not excited by. So I'm gonna do some button remapping. I'm gonna tweak the running a little bit. I do need to do a new run animation, because I think the game kind of game feel of the running was one of the big sticking points. And thanks to Cheese in our Discord, who sent me like 2 15-minute playtest videos yesterday, that was really helpful. But I know the running was something that he really didn't get on well with. And I think the running feels very close to the running in Spelunky, but I don't have a separate animation for it or anything, so it feels a bit silly. So I'm gonna be doing these bits to do with the controls and the feeling of movement, and then some cooking stuff. And then over here I've got close the loop regarding cooking for the wizard, which is kind of what doing these other recipes will lead to. Because I've got like, there's root vegetables, there's mushrooms, you can get meat from the monsters or the goat, you can get milk from the goat by feeding mushrooms and stuff to the goat, and then there's fruit as well. So there's a bunch of ingredients, but I've only made a few recipes that you can cook with them. So I'll do more of those today, ideally, if we get through this other stuff. So I'm just going to start on these now, and we're going to do some button remapping, which shouldn't take very long. So I mentioned earlier that I've been getting some help, and Juju, the person who was helping me out with this, has incorporated a library that makes all of the controls a lot easier to sort of tweak and change. There's like a controller, so like a library that handles controller input and then also handles hot switching between the controller and the keyboard as well, which I had partially in before, but it was a bit messy. And yeah. So if we go into input plugins, I haven't really looked into a lot of this stuff, but what I really need to just do is search for input. I think input jump will take me to the area where I do this stuff. I spend a lot of time just like Control Shift Fing the entire code base to find out where things are. And that happens even more when you haven't coded everything yourself and you're using like libraries and templates and stuff. Okay, so one of the things I was going to do is change one of these into... I want to change the button mapping so that Y is always the button for interacting with doors. And I need to find out where that lives. Here we go. Okay. So I currently have Y bound as leave, which is the button that we use to end the run. Like you hold down Y on the portal and you sort of go home. And that kind of works. I will call that leave because it's the same as opening a door to leave a room. So I will keep that as leave. But we don't want it to be the escape key, I don't think. So jump is space. Attack or throw is Q. Interact is... Hi, Jokester. I think one of the things I'm going to do... which I've never done before, but I'm just going to create a notepad script that I don't actually run in the game, and I just put the terms that I keep forgetting. One of the things that I struggle with quite a lot is my short-term memory is really not very good. And the more that I copy and paste and Control F and everything, the worse it gets. So I think maybe having a notepad that I can copy variable names to and stuff will help me a bit here. Okay, so I want to change the mapping of the door opening to be the leave verb, which will be face button 4 on the controller, which is Y. And then I need to actually implement that in the door object, which is here, which is what handles the kind of opening of doors. So I think all I need to do actually is yeah, this is going to be leave here. And then this one will be leave here. So if I test that in the game, it should have changed the open door button to R on the keyboard and Y on the gamepad. Yes, thank you, Kitten. I got the combined chat on. I remembered this time. I set it up straight away. And then my mic didn't work, so there's always something. Okay. So that tooltip that currently has a big ugly bee on. I've been drawing my own tooltips, which I know is probably quite inefficient, but it sort of matches the vibe of the game. And then if I were to do this with the keyboard, it would be R and then space to confirm. It's funny that you confirm with space and then he jumps in the air, but that's the kind of thing I can fix later. Okay, so I've got a bunch of sprites that have the word tooltip in the name. So if I go here, I just need to change this B to a Y. Now I haven't made these for the keyboard yet, and part of the reason for that is that anyone who plays platformers on the keyboard is strange and deserves to be excluded. That's not the real reason. The real reason is I want to make sure that all of the controller mappings make total sense before I put in the effort to make the keyboard mappings work. Because otherwise you're changing something, you're iterating a lot on it, and you're doing it twice every time. And I mean, the library that I've got should help with that a little bit. And it does, from what you've just seen, like the way that library is built. But that's a terrible Y, but that'll be fine for now. The library helps with that, but I still have to, like, if I'm gonna do these tooltips, I need to like make them bespoke every time, and I don't want to do that. So we're only doing it for the gamepad reference now. But the system does have hot switching, so you'll be able to play with the gamepad and then change to keyboard, and it will detect what you're playing on, and then it will change these tooltips to be that. So that feels like it makes a bit more sense now. So we've got Y to open doors. That's a bug that I have seen very rarely, where it's trying to build 2 rooms at once. I'm not sure where that comes from. And one of the things, I was looking back at an older build of this recently. So in this build, I've got like proper previews of the rooms you can build, and that's based on the room loader library that someone showed me on the GameMaker community. And it's much better because you can see the whole room. I can see there's a goat in there. But I really want to draw a border around this as well, so it's got a bit more of a clear link to here. So there's like a white border and then a white border, so you can see that this is linked to this. Or maybe there's a red border in this color that's quite thick and then a white border around it, just so you've got more of a visual link between the room you're building and the word you're selecting over here. But I'm not going to work on that today. I'm just sort of thinking out loud about some of these decisions as I kind of make them, I guess. There's still a bunch of little bugs with this, of like little physics things and stuff, but I'm getting some help with those. So a lot of them I'm just sort of stocking them up and then asking someone about them when they're free. And I need to stop some of this room overwriting in certain places because it gets very confusing. And I also need to put a big green exit sign on that when you go onto the pause map. The pause map should zoom out as well. It zooms out when we go to build, but it doesn't zoom out when we go to pause. But that's because I did a bunch of camera work the other day, and then I broke some things. You know how it is. You fix some things, and as you fix some things, you break some things. But the main thing that I fixed that was a big win this week was finally working out why my pixels were sort of rectangular. Because there was some weird stuff happening with my pixel art scaling, and it turned out it was that GameMaker was taking the aspect ratio of the first room, like the initialization room, and assuming that was the aspect ratio for the entire game. And that meant that I kept looking at my gameplay room and thinking, well, the camera here is set up fine, and it was taking the viewport from the first room and then forcing the rest of the game to conform to that, which was why I was getting weird squished pixels all the time. I think one of the things I might need is like tooltips before you pick up relics that tell you what they do as well, because I know that that's a thing that various people have commented on when they've played it. It's just that they pick up a relic and they don't know what it does, and then they have to pause and go and see down at the bottom, which isn't ideal, I don't think. Okay, we've got door opening remapped. I'm going to simplify some of the other controls. Oh. Is GameMaker going to do this to me every time I come out of a playtest? That's not ideal. Maybe I need to set my... What are you doing, GameMaker? I think what I need to do is set my playtest to run in a window. And then maybe we won't get that problem. So... At the moment, I've also got it so that when you pick stuff up, you have to press down on B, and I'm just going to make that simpler as well. So just so that we don't have to press down, because I've been watching people play test and struggle with the controls, and I'm just trying to simplify them as much as possible. And I had a rare instance yesterday of, shout out to Cheese from our Discord, of saying, basically... of basically suggesting a control scheme that I kind of think was pretty much perfect. Which is good. Gut Whale, that's a good name. What am I looking for? Right, it's not going to be in here because this is the door code. What am I doing? We want to go to the player object. I've literally only just started using the favorites folder in here as well. You know, there's that, like, they kind of create these helper features in IDEs or any kind of software, and you just spend ages not using them and then realizing, oh, there's a favorites folder here where I can put the most commonly used objects in. It's been staring me in the face for 5 years, and I've never used it in any project. Okay, so we're looking for the step event where we... Here we go. So we've got down and interact to pick up an object, and interact is B. But we basically want to take away the down. So we're just turning B into the pick up and drop button, and taking away the need to press down as well, because it doesn't really add anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in my search for in a moment, because I'm sure I've got more than one reference to this. And so if we're not carrying anything and there's an item is my naming for an object you can pick up and carry around in your hands in this game. That's an item. if there's an item, it becomes the carried item. Okay. Else, if you're not carrying an item, if you are carrying an item already, then you gently drop the item. Okay, I think that might be the only reference for that. And then we use the attack button to throw the item in your hand, which is X. So X is punch when you're not holding an item, and throw when you are holding an item, and B is pick up and drop, which is way simpler than having B and down to pick up, even though B doesn't do anything else, which was what I was doing before. So thanks, Cheese, for giving me these tweaks. You've been very helpful already. So yeah, I can now that it was an example of an operation that was just way too complex before. Because if I wanted to jump up and grab a berry out of a tree, I had to jump with A, and then as I passed the berry, press B and down at the same time. And now I just press B. I don't need to press B and down. Much simpler. And really, that is this kind of first wave of playtesting. That's what that was about for me, was just finding these kind of... oh, that's one of the physics bugs I need to fix, or get someone else to help me fix. That's what the first round of playtesting was really about, is like just the feel of the character and anything to do with the basic controls that don't make sense. So I think we've got most of those. I'm going to slow the run down a little bit because the disparity between the walk speed and the run speed is a bit much for people, I think. Which is a shame because I quite like yeeting through. But it might be a game feel thing. It might be because the run uses the walk animation. So I'm gonna turn the run speed down a very small amount, but not too much. Do you like my new dust effect when you run across the... I mean, all of the tiles, apart from the sort of sleek, futuristic ones, have this little dust effect when you run across them. And if you run into the fungus, it's really cloudy because it's supposed to be spores. So, lovely bit of world building through particle effects. And the other thing that I know that my playtesters struggled with was understanding the keys and the fact that opening a door was using up a key. So I'm gonna change the run speed. I'm gonna try and add a little bit more communication around the keys. And actually, what I really need to do is scale up all of the UI, because I shrunk it down inadvertently while I was fixing the cameras, and I think a lot of this stuff could do with being bigger, like these hearts and stuff. But I think I might be able to just do some sort of explosion on the key when you spend a key, because when you open a door, you go up and down, and then you choose a room, and then one of these keys gets spent. But the playtesters weren't getting the connection between doing that and doing that. I mean, it could be that I need to just move the key resource down here when you're choosing. I'm not going to solve that now because UI programming is boring and not interesting to watch. So it's mostly me just like moving something one pixel and having to restart and move something another pixel. But yeah, I think even just thinking out loud about it is helpful, because I think that maybe just making it so that this moves down and it's shown next to select a new room, so you understand that the key is related to the selection you're making, that would be helpful. So maybe it says select a new room and then the key and number of keys is here. I mean, let's rough it in very quickly, and then I can do the positional tweaking later on. That's a better way to think about it, I think. Input verb run. Yeah, that might work actually, Jokester. I mean, if I make it so that you open the door and then the key appears where the door was and fades away. Yeah, okay, let's try it. Let's try it. That sounds more exciting as well. No, we're looking for this. What are we doing? Okay, speed 5 instead of 6. There's a lot of things in the game that are too fast because I was making the game at 30 FPS, and then people were like, why are you making this game at 30 FPS? Make it at 60. And I haven't slowed everything back down yet. So I think what I'll do, because that feels really slow to me now, that run. But I think what I'll do is I will make this the base run, and then I'll make a relic that puts it back up to 6. So if you've got the speedy boots, then you'll run at the speed I was running at before. There'll be like just a slight boost to the run mechanic. I really like this relic system because it's so easy for me to add new ones to it. Like, it takes me longer to draw the pixel art sprite for a new relic than it does for me to implement the code to make it work in most cases, because it's just one small exception to the rules somewhere in one line of code. You know, like, I've got a relic that makes these carrots spawn more frequently. I've got a relic that makes it take longer for an egg to hatch. I've got a relic that makes it so that like 25% of eggs hatch and have a relic instead of a monster. Those are all just like one line of code exception to a rule that already exists in the game about how things work, and that's great because it just means I can add loads and loads of those relics, and I quite like the flavor that they bring to the game. Right, is it gonna? It didn't play up for me when I exited this time. So if I go to my items, I've got a relics folder here. Can we zoom in on those? Yeah, so these are all the relics that are currently in the game. You get magnetic coins. Thanks for subscribing, Michael. Magnetic coins, like Vampire Survivors. The Cursed Purse. I like this sprite. This is a good sprite. I'm just hovering above it. This is like, you get more coins from jars based on how many red rooms you've drafted. So this incentivizes you building the dangerous stuff. There are a few things like this. It's got like a little Baphomet on it. The Dirt Puncher. There's like spike knuckles that let you punch through soil or fungus blocks. The Ego Hatchy. This is the relic that makes it so that sometimes eggs have relics in. The egg timer slows down how long eggs take to hatch. This stops your torches going out. You get like a pink magical flame on your torches instead. This allows you to spawn jars in green rooms. And I want to make a whole set of relics like this that sort of when you as you collect them, the green rooms become like more and more profitable to have. I want to create a whole set that does that. This allows you to sprint through jars and break them. It has a secret hidden second thing that it does as well. And one of the things I'm doing with a lot of these relics is they have a stated use that it tells you on the when you on the pause screen when you go through the relics. It tells you what they do. But some of them have a secondary use that I'm not going to explicitly mention in the game. I think that's quite fun for people to work out on their own. I think it's the kind of thing that, you know, if a game gets big, leads to there being a Wikipedia because fans realize that they need one. So this gives you coins for defeating monsters. This one gives you more of the golden jars that have keys and relics in. It's supposed to look like a brush made of kind of Japanese kintsugi. This gives you more keys. This slows down the rate at which the fungus blocks grow, because one of the things that happens is as you build a bigger level, the red blocks can block off your way back to the start. So you'll go really far, collect loads of stuff, and then on your way back you'll realize you can't actually get back to the portal when you have to quit the run. That kind of helps stop that happening. The space helmet lets you walk outside of the level for longer before you freeze, because you freeze if you kind of walk around outside of the level, and then that just kind of gives you more vegetables. So we've got a weird mix of Slay the Spire stuff and and Stardew Valley stuff. Because we're doing a weird a weird cozy horror platformer, I guess, is the kind of general vibe. So where was I? Yeah, we're going to try and come up with a very small fix for that communication problem around keys opening doors. And it might seem weird that, you know, a key opening a door is a confusing thing for people, but I think it was valid because the doors just seem to open, and obj unlock anim. I'll put key in there as well to make it searchable, because I will search for key later and expect it to have the word key in. So we're going to make an object that just sort of flies out of the corner of the room when you spend a key and goes to the door that you're spending it on. And I'm going to use this slightly more high-res key, which is nicer than the ones you find in the level, but it's basically the same design, just scaled up a little bit. Thanks, Jill. I'm getting better at the sprites. I mean, the main thing is I'm not forcing myself to use a palette because it would slow me down, and I know some people consider it best practice, but I'm not a pixel artist and it will slow me down. And also I just really trying to unlearn pillow shading, because I do a lot of pillow shading, but mainly I just go back through them every so often, and like when I'm getting tired of programming, I go back and I'll pick 10 sprites that I want to make better and work on them. So a lot of the ones you see with hard black outlines, it's where I haven't revisited them for a while, because I've been kind of phasing out most of the hard black outlines on anything that's not like the player. Okay, so this is going to appear, and it's just going to fly towards wherever the player was at the moment it appeared, because the player is at the door, right? So when we open a door and we switch from the build menu back to the what I call explore mode, which is basically just the unpaused action version of the game. I have like a state machine for game modes, and the one way you can actually move around is called explore at the moment. So when we switch from build to explore by confirming the room, at that exact moment we're gonna find the player and like sort of locate where they are, maybe a little bit over to the left or right based on which way they're facing, so that we hit the actual door. We'll mark that location, and then this key will kind of just fly in from the top left, which will give the impression that it's flying out of the GUI, but it won't really be coming from the GUI. It will be coming from just like the top left corner of the screen. And what I can do then is I can gradually fade it in, and then it will look like the key from the GUI is coming out of the corner, but it's not really. I think that will at least kind of do a generally okay job of what we want to achieve, and I can do that very quickly. It's not necessarily going to be the best thing, and it will be something I probably rewrite at some point, but I think in terms of just quickly solving that problem, or coming up with something to quickly solve that problem, it should be good. So we're going to make a targ X and a targ Y equals player and I'm always just directly referencing the player object, because it's the only instance of the player object in the game, so I can do that. That's what I'm looking for. So if the player is facing right, then the X scale is +1, and if they're facing left, then the X scale is -1. So I can use that and then offset it by 12, which will give me like half of a block, or maybe even 24 actually. So I'll do 20 so that it doesn't go exactly in the middle. And what that will do is it means that the point that the key is going to try and fly towards will hopefully be where the door was. The door will already be destroyed at this point, but I think maybe that's okay. I can finesse that and refine it later and put like I quite like the idea that the door will like glow as like a magical blue door, and then the key will explode it, because then I'm kind of using the turquoise color as the communication of like, these are magical doors and keys kind of thing. So I think maybe having the door go bee as like a glowing blue door, and then the key comes through and explodes it, that would work very well for what I want to achieve, but I'm not sure if it's overkill for now. We just really need to solve the communication problem, because the playtester was not understanding that the keys were spent every time you open the door. It's also different from blueprints, which is like some doors require keys. I've made it so every door in this requires a key, so it's a much tighter resource management thing. And that means that the feature is weird, both if you have played the blueprints and if you haven't. So, you know. Okay, so we're gonna keep lerping towards the target X. And then when we get close enough, we're going to explode the key with some sort of VFX. Yeah, I always... Emily said once you put sounds in it, it goes such a long way. Yeah, I always try and put sounds in as early as possible, because I feel like they're just... Like, one of the things I've done with this is I've just got these very basic 8-bit sound effects that I put everywhere, and I'm just trying to get like the impact of that particular sound. So if it's a psh, it's a psh. And some of them I've done with my mouth, like there's certain sounds like when I need a... it's quicker to do that in Audacity with my mic than it is to go on the internet and look for someone else doing a... So I just do it myself. There are a bunch of sounds like that, like the punch sounds where it's going psh, is just me doing it with my mouth. I get some sound effect in as quickly as possible, and then I can come back and refine them later. And a lot of games in this style, like if you look at Rogue Legacy 1, there are these games where it's like high fidelity or mid fidelity pixel art, and then the sound effects are like a mix of 8-bit sounds, but they're layered with real sounds, and that's kind of my target style for this eventually. And then we're gonna have... I don't think I have a very good sort of sparkly turquoise particle explosion, so we'll just have a quick look at what would be best for that. Just going to modify this one. Doesn't really go with our pixel art style, but again, my ethos is just get something in that does the job, and then you're gonna change everything anyway, so you might as well just work as quickly as possible to start with, and then make it more appropriate later on. Okay. So we want them to kind of fly out a little bit more violently than that, I think, because we're kind of marking the position on the map where you just opened the door. So maybe I just need to make the life longer so that they fly out further. Yeah, that sort of thing. So we're going to make this particle, and I always forget how to trigger this. So I think the easiest place for me to copy it from is my jar smashing thing, just because when I smash a jar, there isn't much code there. So when I destroy a jar, here we go. This is the particle system stuff that I need to do. And then I need to go back to GUI where I saved my unlock animation key, and as it destroys itself, it does this stuff. And instead of particle jar smash, we're doing particle door key sparkle. Door key sparkle. Good drag name. Okay, so we've got all that, and then we basically need to trigger the spawning of the object unlock animation key when the player opens a door, which means we need to put it in the door object. So I should have... Yeah, that's the point at which we actually build the room. Oh, where have you gone? So I don't want to create it at depth. I want to create it on a layer. Still not really fully understanding how that works in GameMaker, but yeah, okay. And then if I just minus some random numbers off of here, then it's going to move it more towards the top left. Let's see if that works. L rate is not set. Okay, I'm also going to try and... Don't start full screen. Oh, I didn't apply that last time I did it. That's why. Okay, where is the... Unlock anim key. Ah, okay. It's because I didn't set this. I initialized the variable. I didn't set it to anything. The other thing we can do is make the key big and then make it get smaller as it goes in, and that will give the impression it's starting in the interface and shrinking down to be in the game. I don't see it. I don't see it. It's not. It's nowhere. So every step, it is going to go towards the target Y at this rate, the target X and the target Y at this rate. When it's created, it will set those. That all looks like it's looking right. So I think maybe it's... I haven't set this up. Because I'm half awake and explaining the whys of things, and that kind of takes away brain power to be making sure you're pressing the right button. Okay. See, the problem there is that the door is gone way before it hits, right? We've got some of the basic functionality of that moment, but we sort of need a delay. And I think I know how to do that. So we're going to create a... So the thing I'm wary of is... if I make any other object types, I'm going to have to like handle how they work with collision. What I'd really like is you choose the room, it goes back, you can move around, and the new room isn't immediately built until the key hits the door, and then the door explodes and the new room is built. But I think that might be quite a lot of work to get that to work in a clean way. That one particle, measly one particle coming out when we did that. I mean, I could make another mode where we're kind of not quite back in explore mode, but we're waiting for the key to hit the thing. I mean, it's at least communicating the thing that was the problem. I've got like a occasional thing where some of these drop-through platforms don't re-register. But that one is, and that one is. So what is it about that one that... But I'm not going to get into that now because that's taking us to whole other parts of the game. Is there a fart ability? There should be a fart ability. I mean, these guys are doing a fart ability up here. I think part of the problem is that the key flying down looks like it's going to us. It really does need to like detonate to help communicate that it's not a new thing we're getting, it's a thing we're spending. Need to center the camera when you do that teleporter as well. Again, I fixed some stuff that needed fixing in my camera code, and I've undone loads of other good stuff, which is a shame. Okay, so I'm gonna make it so that there's a switch called opening. And yeah, the music is kind of my own placeholder stuff that I made for the time being. I'm going to get some other people to make some music, but I put in a really simple reactive music thing where the drums cut out when you run out of keys, and the melodic part comes in the more green rooms you build. So it sort of just matches the vibe of what's going on in the gameplay a little bit. Okay, so that we've got our print room thing there. And that needs to happen after a timer. So I'm going to make a new alarm. And it will be alarm 7. And this prints the room after a short delay. And hopefully that's going to give us the basic feel of what we want. So the key should be spent straight away. As soon as you press the button to build, we go to explore mode. We create the key animation, and then we also set what was it? What was the flag I just set up? Is it called building? Opening, okay. We set opening to true, and then in a minute I will use opening to protect the game from letting you open the door twice, because at the moment there's nothing to stop that happening, but we'll just see if it works. And then so open that. Did I not set the timer? So alarm 7. No, I did not set the timer. I love alarms. I don't know if you got a similar thing in Godot, but it just basically means that instead of having to constantly set up your own variables that are like counting down things, there are just a bunch of built-in variables counting down on every object that are like clocks. Ooh! Jokester, I think your suggestion is working now that we took the effort to make it a thing. I think I need to flip the key based on which side of the door we're opening from, which I think is very easy to do. I'll just call it unlock anim key so we're being consistent. So if the open side is left, then we swap the visual of the key to be flipped. Just so that the key seems to be pushing from the right side of the door. So now if I open this door, the key should stay the way it is, pointing to the right, and then if I open this door, it should point to the left. Yeah, okay. That's decent. And then I'm going to make the key come in larger than it normally is. Because, actually, before I forget, I'm going to change this stuff. So everything that's currently in this step event... all of our normal interactions with the door can only happen if opening is false. Because opening is that switch we set when... switch isn't the right word. That boolean we set when we've opened the door and we're waiting for it to destroy and print the new room. So that's so much better. I mean, it doesn't look fantastic, but I feel like in terms of communicating what is happening in both the game mechanics and the fiction of the world, I mean, it's now a bit confusing that he's a key on the map, but I found that funny. I just did that because it would be funny. Okay, because then, yeah. I didn't test what I needed to test, which was like trying to force the door to open twice. I'll quickly check that. Yeah, it let me do that for some reason. Try it again. Okay, so I can still interact with that. Why is that the case? Why can I interact with it? I haven't put any interaction code on the on somewhere I shouldn't, I don't think. Maybe I have. Oh, that's because that's not got an if on it. Did you know that conditionals require the word if? Did you know that? Welcome to Advanced Programming with Dr. Joe Baxter Webb. This is why I have a humanities doctorate and not a science doctorate, because I forget that you have to put the word if in a conditional. Hi, Brainoid. Thanks for popping in. I'm going to be doing these once a week. I'm going to do a GameMaker stream on Tuesday. I might step that up later in the year and do more of them if people enjoy being part of them. I know there's a little scene of people that like to hang out on each other's games when they're being made, which is nice. It's good. Okay, what I really need to up in this, I need to put the particle, because that basically there's when you make particles in this, you can create a trail or you can create a burst. And when you create a burst, it just does one frame, which means if particle count is only set to 1, then it's only going to produce one particle. So, wicked. Yeah, I haven't been through and played them yet. I looked at all the thumbnails. I'm gonna schedule some live streaming of the Game Jam games soon. Right, so at the moment I don't like the stars, but I like the effect because it feels sort of... It doesn't feel too violent, it feels like something good happened because it's kind of got that twinkly feel to it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to change that to a pixel instead of a star. And that might need a little bit more tweaking with some other stuff, but and then maybe just more saturated colors. So it's clear. So the key asset is this mix of like turquoise and sky blue. So we'll go for that. And then what happens if I do that? How big is one? I don't understand the scaling in this at all. Hi Kuro, thank you. I've still got some pretty bad bugs in this, but I kind of feel like you don't want to... I've been fixing a lot. I did a lot of sort of optimization stuff, which I didn't really know how to do in the last week. So I feel like I've learnt a lot of helpful stuff going forward. Like people were playing the test build and the game was slowing down gradually, and there was some weird stuff going on with trash collection, which was to do with some effect that I was calling that had no... It was like I was calling an effect that was completely translucent and wasn't doing anything, and I was just yeah, calling it a lot. So this, I think if I turn that off, then they should just stay facing one direction, and they'll look more pixely. Oh, that's the movement direction. Okay, we want that to be kind of free. The danger of this kind of stuff. I like making the little trails of smoke for when the character runs. I was probably doing that for 2 hours. It's just so easy to get lost in. I like how it feels almost like it feels like a kind of shoot 'em up projectile. Now the key. What if the key did a trail of these as it flew down? That might be fun. Okay, we can definitely go much bigger on the scale of these. So let's make the biggest 128 and see what happens. Oh no, I don't need to do that there. I'll do that here. 5 times bigger. The juice rabbit hole, yeah. Too big now. I think the trick is actually that it's this kind of scale part of like so what I'm going to do, I don't want to get stuck on this for too long because I want to make sure we get some time to make some delicious pixel art food. Because that's what I told myself I would do after I'd fixed a couple of these kind of controls and communications problems. Okay, we're going to create a particle burst as it flies as well. So maybe actually every frame that's alive, it's going to do a particle burst, and then when it hits the door, we're going to do the same effect, but we're going to do it like 12 times. And that means I probably will need to... Where's it gone? Where's my sparkle gone? I probably do need to make it have less particles per frame. Yeah, it's much better to kind of make things operate in big jumps between numbers, because otherwise you're just prematurely like fine-tuning something that you don't need to. So the unlock animation key is gonna... Okay, we're gonna do image x scale equals lerp. So we're gonna gradually scale it down to the size that it currently is. And I'll use that lerp rate variable there as well because it just makes it quicker to tune this. And what I'm going to do then is start it with a much bigger X and Y scale. It might make it look a bit weird because the one in the UI is small, but I'm gonna make that one bigger later on anyway. So hopefully this will give the impression that it's coming from the interface, which is between the player and the world, right? It's closer to us, it's larger, and it's going into the game world and becoming smaller. And I'm just going to slow the speed at which it does that down a little bit because that's what this lerp rate is doing. The lerp rate is controlling the rate at which it reaches the destination and the rate at which it shrinks down to 100% of its normal size. And then in order to make sure that that times properly, I also need to make sure that our alarm code in here is extended slightly. And I'm saying all of this after we literally just had a conversation in the Discord yesterday or the day before about how often you kind of you get enamored with your own little animations and stuff, and you make them take too long because you want to see them properly. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make it take slightly too long. Right, last little run through on this, I think, and then I'm going to move on to something else. I think they just last a bit too long as well. So let's do more particles per burst with a much lower life and reduce the maximum size a bit. I'm glad this is something I can trigger from like the first second of the game. I hate having to set up like specific debug contexts. Just too many. Maybe they're just a bit too opaque. I was going to say occlusive then. Is occlusive a word? They just need the point changed a little bit there, I think. I think fundamentally I need to use a different one for the trail from the key. And one small change because I can't help myself. Just to really sell the idea of what's going on here. It's funny because I don't know if Jokester's still in the chat, but we were having a conversation very recently about magical glows and how sort of magical glows in fantasy games are like, you know, you initially think of them as like world fiction of like, oh, this is fire, so it's orange, and this is the bad guy, and the bad guy is green and stuff. But they're part of the UX, you know, they're part of how you teach players what things go together and stuff in the game. So it's kind of what I'm doing right now is trying to help solidify that relationship between, like, you pick up the keys, they are this glowy turquoisey color, and that is your resource to open doors, right? I'm not going to do a very good job of this, but it's the sort of thing I can kind of come back to later on and finesse. But just getting it in place to start solving the issue of the thing that was confusing my playtesters, which was just every time you open a door, you spend a key. It wasn't very clear. I think we've cleared it up a bit today. That's all you can do is, you know, you don't want to rush to do a fix and spend like do some kind of chromatic stuff here. Spend like a day with a proposed solution for the thing, and you don't even know if it's the right solution yet. It's much easier to just throw something in, obviously thinking about it, but one of the benefits of doing these kind of streams is I just get to think out loud about something, and I tend to find I come to a better solution just by saying the thing out loud of like, this is what I'm going to do. And you guys chip in with ideas, like what just happened with Jokester suggesting the key coming out of the interface, which I like. And then, yeah, we're going to change the door to that sprite when we do the buildy bit. Yeah, not a clue. I only really started using the built-in particle stuff in the last week or so. I sort of gave myself a crash course on the built-in effects and particle stuff. Hadn't done it before. What would be good is if I had a transitionary animation where it starts as the original sprite. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go with this. Is I create a frame here that just has the OG. And then we do something like, right, 2 frames of the glow. Not very good at using this timeline. I don't do much animation, as you might have noticed. So what we're trying to do is create a gradual flash of it turning from a wooden door to like a door made of glowing ectoplasm, and then it explodes. And then what we can do is just slow that sprite down so much that it, yeah, at the moment it's only going through that very quickly. So oh no, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? That's why. Am I? Yeah, okay, something like that. It doesn't look great, but I can come back to that later. Doing a much better job of communicating what is happening. I also kind of really like the fact that I can build a new room and then run away and have something like that. One instance I probably would need to catch is when you try and open a door, like what happens if can I open two things at once and it will send them... I mean, maybe that won't interfere, but if the rooms are kind of stacked on top of each other somehow, that's an edge case I might have to eventually catch. So I might need to make it so you can't open a door while that kind of GUI key thing is flying in for another room. But I'm not gonna resolve that now. What I will do, because I know I will forget to do that, is I will put it on my Trello backlog. So, cat edge case. I'll just describe it as a problem rather than how I want to solve it. 2 GUI fly-in keys can exist at once, and this could lead to some weirdness spawning 2 overlapping rooms. Okay, so put that in my backlog of stuff to think about later on so I don't forget it, because I will forget it because it's not a fun thing to develop or think about, and those are the things you need to take notes on, because those are the things that your brain will just be like, nope, I shall simply not remember that. So the last thing I want to do today is clarify the cooking mechanic a little bit and then add some more recipes, because it's actually relatively easy for me to add new recipes to this with the ingredients. I just haven't done it for a while because it felt like fun work that I didn't want to do until I had more stuff fixed. So at the moment, you can put stuff in the cauldron when it's not lit, and that has led to some confusion because they think they're cooking when they're not. So what I'm going to do, at the moment I've got like a lit sprite for the cauldron, and it does this nice little glowy thing. I'm going to make it so that you can't put items in until it's lit, and then you can put your 2 items in and it will cook something. So it's got 3 states. It's got like this bubbling state to show that it already has 1 item in it. And maybe I should actually draw the sprite of that item under the thing bobbing around so you can see what you put in it. But it's got 3 states. It's got bubbling, it's got lit, and it's got unlit. And the first thing I need to do, just to make sure that players understand that I want to make it so you can't put stuff in the cauldron until you've lit it. And I think that will help people understand how the cooking system works, which is you have to light the cauldron before it becomes a cooking utensil. So all I'm going to do, and this is, I don't know if anyone in the chat knows about affordance theory, but this is kind of one of those types of things. I put a lid on it. Just going to put a lid on it and show that it is closed, and then when you light it, it is open. So it's just a little clue to let the player know how the thing works, how the kind of mechanic in the game works, how this object in the game works, to put a lid on it until you can use it for cooking. And then maybe they will understand that there is a sort of functional difference in the game between a lit cauldron and unlit cauldron, and the unlit cauldron has a lid on it. It's not the sort of thing that's going to make loads of difference, but I think seeing the problems that playtesters have had with this particular feature so far, I think it could be one of those things that's just a tiny little tweak that goes quite a long way. So, yeah, the cauldron will just have a lid on. And when you light the cauldron, the lid comes off, and that sort of indicates that it is ready for you to put items in and cook a meal. Yeah, I like Trello particularly for keeping track of things that I am bad at thinking about. You know, the problem with making games is there's always fun stuff to do and not fun stuff to do. So, you know, one of the things that I did with this stream today was just like make sure I do something that is sort of high return on investment in terms of improving the player experience, which was making sure some controls and communication were improved. And then I can do some stuff that I find fun, which is doing more pixel art and VFX and the stuff that I enjoy doing. Okay, so when you have not lit the thing, it has a lid on like that. And then when you've lit it, the lid comes off, and that shows you that it's ready to accept food items. Then when you put one food item in, it starts bubbling. Maybe eventually I will draw the sprite of the food item there. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where just talking about it is... I can implement that in like 60 seconds probably. So let's just do it. I just need to see what... if lit is true and first ingredient is not no one, then ingredient ing sprite equals sprite index. I don't know if I can get... or maybe I can. I don't know if I can get the sprite index of an object that's been destroyed, but I will try. I will try. And we're going to just have a bit of a random shake to it so it looks like it's bubbling around. Might take me a moment to find it now. There we go, clearing. So we got our cauldron with its big heavy lid on so that people know they can't use it yet. I also made it so that you can get torches in these random dungeon rooms, which it was very hard to get a torch before. Oh, I've messed up my messed up my cauldron room. I built over it. There's going to be an ongoing back and forth with this game about I also need to speed that up, so let's go to the portal. That was another thing, playtester feedback. Okay, the portal needs to activate quicker. Okay. Yeah. So let's just check what happens when I cook something, and with the... I think I'm not running a rand when I start the game, which means I'm starting off with the same room choice, which is fine. It doesn't really matter. It's helping me at the moment because it's giving me the same... Let's see if I can get that over to the thing in time. Okay, cool. That needs a like sizzly sound when you light the thing. Maybe we could have a little fire burning sound when you're near something that produces a fire. I put that in. It doesn't look like it's drawing the sprite, but I don't know if that's because it can't get the sprite from the object. Or if it's because it's hiding too far behind. Cauldron, where are you? I need to put some code into you. Okay, so I'm going to make ingredient sprite into a general variable for the object, and then okay, so this first check is for when it doesn't have any ingredients in, and this second check is for when it does have an ingredient in. So we're going to make equals sprite index dot. So we're going to save the sprite of the thing that just got thrown into it, and then we're going to use that to draw sort of bobbing up and down And I'm going to make it too high to start off with, just so that I can kind of come down from there. And if it looks like it's vibrating too fast, which it probably will do the first time, then one of the things I can do is the little offset I'm doing to make it move around, I can link that to the animation frame of the sort of bubbling animation, which will probably solve that. I'm just trying to kind of predict what's going to happen in terms of issues. It's very hard to get a torch. Which I kind of don't mind. I want it to be easier for test demos so that people get a feel of the cooking system, but I also like the idea that just like making an omelette or something would be some massive undertaking. It's kind of funny, but I guess game design isn't just doing things because they're funny. Alas. Okay, that time it fell down into the new room, which was good. That's better than what we saw before, but I need a torch. There's a torch, but now I don't have a... Oh, we've got a bonfire, so we can light torches. We got a clearing. Okay, and I can get this axe. I can chop that branch down. Oh, and I can get my own torch from the branch. There we go. Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna put a root vegetable in there. Ah. Okay. Oh, I've got this the wrong way round because it's the sprite index of the other. So when I use other, that's a reference for like when two objects are colliding. So this is the cauldron, and the cauldron is checking for when it collides with a ingredient, which is like a subset of items. So it checks if it collides with an item, it checks if that item is an ingredient, then it decides what to do from there. And so here the other is the ingredient that's been thrown into the cauldron. And I'm trying to store the sprite from that. And I had sprite index and other the wrong way round because it's the sprite index of the other and not the other way around. Stuff normal people don't notice unless it's not there. Yeah, that's what so much of game dev is. So much of learning game dev is learning not to take things for granted. It's like you'll see it all the time in beginner game dev forums where someone's like, well, I just want the character to walk over there. And it's like, walking is not an engine native thing. Like, walking depends on genre of game. Like, what it means for a character to walk is not a given thing. You need to start from like, what does walking involve? Okay, I cook a berry. It doesn't show up. Maybe I make it much higher. Yeah. Opening doors, the game. I'm gonna, at some point, when I want to annoy all the programmers, I'm gonna do a rant about how... Oh, there, okay. So that needs to move up 24, roughly 24, what's its pixels? Yeah, I'm going to have a rant at some point about how people need to properly cite people in game dev, because I keep seeing little YouTube shorts and stuff on the door problem where they don't credit Liz England properly, and it's really annoying. It's like, we already live in a world where people don't really pay attention to game designers or know the name of the designer that designed their favorite game and stuff like that, and then you've got like a prominent female game designer, and everyone on Reddit is just like, the door problem, and then they never, I mean they do, never is not the right word, because like the game design subreddit cites her properly. But yeah, I've seen this little trend of particularly game dev YouTubers making a little short that explains a design concept and they don't quote someone properly. And I saw one about the door problem the other day and it made me angry. I don't even know if that was a reference to the door problem, but the door problem is like this explanatory metaphor that Liz England, who worked on a bunch of cool stuff, Scribblenauts and stuff like that, came up with to explain what a game designer actually does. And it's like all of the questions about like how a door could work in a game that aren't to do with programming it. Yeah, I find it troubling, and it's like, it's not like, the thing is that the door problem example is a specific metaphor that one person has come up with, and it's like, it's an example of their wit as well, you know. It's not just like a textbook thing. It's like, this is a funny person explaining why this is a funny problem. It's like stealing someone's joke. It's not just like an academic thing where it doesn't belong to anyone because it's such a commonly used idea. And I think when you've got, you know, historically quite male-dominated thing as well, to then not cite someone who is you know, not a man, just kind of makes that a bit worse as well. Just annoying, very annoying behavior. So I did that thing where I got in. It's a good sign when this happens when you're testing a game, but I got into a thing of just like, I've started flowing and then I forgot what I was testing for. Which isn't bad, but I mean, it's not productive. That sucks. I will check that out. I hope he, I hope there is a credit in the description or something, because I would expect better from him. If not, then my game dev has a citation problem video will probably come sooner rather than later. It's like, you know, one of the things I always used to ask, well, occasionally used to ask new game design students was like, it's a bit of a troll question, but it's just to get them to think about. Yeah, I mean, it is a troll question, but I would ask people who their favorite game designer was. And most of them couldn't name a game designer. And you'd have the odd... You would have like... I don't know, you'd have 50 students in a year, right? And you might have maybe 2 or 3, maybe closer to 10 if you're lucky, who say someone like Eric Barone or Toby Fox because they have a favorite game and they know who made that game. So they say that person, right? And then you might have a few people that are like not into indie games, so they say Hideo Kojima or something like that. And then, yeah, the vast majority, like 3/4 of an entire year of game design students, would not be able to answer the question, who is your favorite game designer? They come in not really knowing what a game designer does, and they don't even, have favorite game directors, which is like, what the distinction between those things is gonna be very fuzzy depending on what kind of part of the industry you're in and stuff. But I'm still gonna accept Ken Levine as an answer to that question, or Josh Sawyer, or whoever. It's not a sort of indie versus AAA question. It's just do you understand that games are made by people? And do you sort of respect the people that make games enough to sort of know who they are on some level? And the vast majority of people just do not. And I understand why that is. I understand that game development is a difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around, especially when teams are so large, such big sort of ensembles. But I would expect, the game development education space to be better. And I would expect, like, specifically people that are trying to educate in this space, or, making content that is ostensibly trying to help people to enter it, to sort of start with, like, a baseline level of respect for people who've been working in it for a long time. But there's not that. There's not that in a lot of places. And it makes me sad. Okay, clearing. Torch. Big root vegetable that I cannot drop properly. Yeah, look at that! Look at that, that was great! It's bobbing away. Oh, that's good. That's good that, yeah, I'm glad Code Monkey quoted it properly. So what it's doing is, there's only like 4 frames of animation of the cauldron bubbling. And then when it draws the ingredient behind the cauldron, it takes the frame number of the frame animation and uses that to determine how high or low the ingredient will be. And that means that it just feels like they're animated together because the numbers are linked. Yeah, that's cool. I'm happy with that. I'm going to move on. And last sort of 20-30 minutes, we're going to look at... Well, we're going to go back to the cauldron object and we're going to look at the recipe list. And this isn't very well... constructed. It's very, very stupid GameMaker code. But what happens is when we throw an object in, it kind of... when we throw our second object in, it looks at what the 2 ingredients are, and then it increments these variables based on this. And the reason I did it this way is there might be multiple things that are eggs, and there might be multiple things that are meat, and we don't want the game to like have to differentiate between those. So if I put 2 eggs together, it's just going to make an omelette, and it doesn't matter if one is a monster egg and one is a bird egg or something. It just treats them both as an egg, and I find that very funny because I like when I was coming up with the initial set of food items, which I've got some of them here, I put the most British type of food, and this is a Scottish type of food, presumably. I don't actually know if they're really Scottish, but I put a Scotch egg in my game, and I just like the idea of having like the only game with a Scotch egg in, which is like, if you're not from England or Britain, or whether these are actually Scottish, I do not know, or whether they're just a British thing. It's a hard-boiled egg. It's wrapped in sausage meat and then breadcrumbs, and it's like it's like a British arancini. And so yeah, any meat and egg will turn into one of these in this game after you've cooked it in a cauldron, which is Oh yeah, I mean, Brainoid, knowing enough game designers to not have favorites is where we want people to be, right? What's your favorite X is more of like it's more of a kind of question you ask people to have a conversation rather than because it's an actual thing that exists, you know. So yeah, we've got omelette, Scotch egg, and ice cream, and those are the only things at the moment. So what I really want to make is a stew as one of the things you can make. British arancini. Yeah, they're British arancini. So I think we're gonna have, maybe we'll have a vegetable stew and a meat stew. So if what did I call it up here? Root. If root equals 2, then make a vegetable stew. That rhymes. And if root is 1 and meat is 1, then we make a meat stew. Okay. An object stew meat. So we're going to have 2 stews. We also need to have like a fallback. Because at the moment I have... Where is it? At the moment, if you put in stuff that doesn't make sense, it makes a torch, which doesn't make sense at all. So I need like a failed meal. So I'm going to make just an object bad meal. It should just be like a bowl of grey stuff. There's what gets made if you put stuff together that isn't a proper recipe. Yeah, Ella, I might eventually make the ice cream require like a freezing room or something, but at the moment it's just cooking is cooking. Okay, so, and then what I want to do from a balance point of view is have a look at how many instances of each thing. So we've got quite a few things you can make with an egg, right? Nearly anything with an egg will make an omelette, which sort of makes sense. And then we've got a few things that use a root. We've got root, 2 roots, root and a meat. Root and an egg makes an omelette, and root and a mushroom should probably also make a vegetable stew. That makes sense. So if root is 1 and mushroom is 1. I eventually want to have some sort of like myconid mushroom people in this, that if you kill them, they just explode into loads of mushrooms and then you can turn them into omelettes. I think that would be funny. So we got... you can make a veg stew from 2 root vegetables or from 1 mushroom and 1 root. We don't have many things you can do with fruit. So maybe a fruit and a root should make a smoothie or something. I'm actually, so funny story about me and beans is when I was very little, when I was about 4, I developed a food phobia of basically any red food. And I'm mostly over it as an adult. I got over it. I was like, when I was about 17, 18, I was like, everyone enjoys pizza. I'm going to force feed myself some pizza until I enjoy it. Which is like, I don't know, quite an autistic way of dealing with quite an autistic problem. And but beans are one of the ones I never got over. Just tomato sauce in general, tin tomato sauce or ketchup, just can't do it. Makes me heave. So we're gonna have root and fruit makes a smoothie. Fruit equals 1, and when fruit is 2, when we have 2 fruits, we get a smoothie. And I quite like that suggestion from the chat, which was fruit and egg is a fruit pie. Yeah, that's good. See, I'm all right with like an actual tomato, like a salad tomato, where it still has its structural integrity. Yes, we're at 20k. Thank you, Bite Me. I'm terrified of the IRL collab now because I'm going to get attacked by beans. So we've got a vegetable stew, a fruit pie, a smoothie, a meat stew, and something called a bad meal, which needs to have var because I'm using a temporary variable here. So that's what the yellow color coding is in GameMaker. It's when you've got a temporary variable that only exists in that specific script. So I'm going to create the objects here by duplicating one of these, just so that I know that it gets all the inheritance and stuff. So we're going to have object bad meal. I'll just make it so a bad meal is a giant tomato, and people will be like, why is it a giant tomato? Stew veg. I'm going to have a meat stew there. I'm glad that this game will introduce people to the Scotch egg. That's the most important thing. I also like the idea of having this weird, sort of psychedelic, slightly cute, slightly grim game, and then having a and then having Scotch eggs in it. I don't know. That appeals to me in a particular way. Such a specifically British junk food. Am I? Ooh, good catch. Hang on. I am. Thank you, cat lady aunt. You are ninja-eyed. I always do that. I always kind of forget that you need 2 ampersands. That's one of the most common coding errors that I get with stuff like this. Okay, so everything else is already set up to do what it needs to do. I don't have anything else that's bespoke depending on what type of food you're doing. So, yeah. And then just need to make the sprites for these. Only going to have time to do a couple. Going to do the stew first because the stew is... I mean, we can start by basing it on the omelette because the omelette has a plate. But the stew, I get 2 for 1 because I just changed some lumps in it to make the different types of stew. Yeah, I saved the layers. Thank you, past me, for saving the layers. What am I doing? What I'm trying to do is work in a way that makes my life easier, but I'm making my own life harder. It's a mood. Okay, there we go. And then take that top line off there, because we only need that hard outline on the outside of the full object. What am I doing? There we go. I don't think reusing the base item was that helpful then. I think I just used more time than it saved. So the vegetable stew, it can be made out of the root vegetable, and it can also be made out of mushrooms, right? So I want to use a bit of that color. It's going to look like sick. Sorry, folks. Going to look a bit like sick. But I don't really know if I'll be able to differentiate my two types of stew well enough for to justify them being two different meals, but I will. And then we need like an edge for this bowl. Maybe if I just do that sort of thing, just the bowl doesn't have enough of a lip at the moment. Looks better zoomed out than it does zoomed in. I have to quickly check my WhatsApp because there is a chat going on about something I'm supposed to be working on. But I don't want to work on that. I want to make a bowl of soup. It's a bit more bowl shaped. Not a clue. Has to go and make money. Yeah, have a good one. Hope it goes okay in money making land. So that this looks like a different object from the meat one that I'm going to do in a minute, I'm going to give them like a different bowl design. So we'll just have a slightly different color, maybe some wigglies on it. Some wigglies. Oh, that looks all right. Maybe make this lip a bit brighter because it's not contrasting very well with that green now. Just so that it reads properly as an edge. And then up here. Don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know if people follow Juniper, but she did a very good pixel art primer the other day. That just kind of covered everything, like kind of rookie mistakes, stuff I'm probably doing now. Right, we want this to read as the vegetable soup, so I'll put some colors in that just read like bits of stuff. And then the meat one will be like a darker brown. There we go. And what I want, so if you've joined late, what I'm doing at the moment is my sort of short-term goal with this in the next couple of weeks is to try and close one of the gameplay loops, which is at the moment you can run around in the game, you can kind of collect treasure and stuff, and then you return to the base, and there's a wizard sitting there who is your boss, and you can't really interact with him in any meaningful way yet. So one of the things I want to do is make it so you can take him some food. And then it kind of makes this cooking system make sense and have a secondary purpose. Because at the moment you can cook stuff in the level, like during the level, and then you can sell it if you can find the merchant, and then that makes you more money, which, the money doesn't have anything you can spend it on yet, so it's all very much just laying the groundwork for stuff later on that doesn't exist. But yeah, I just want to close some of those loops so that people can get a feel for the game that is in my head. Because I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what the big version of this game is. If and when I ever get there. I sort of know loosely what direction I want to take it in. But the game that people can play right now isn't really representative of that. It's like, I can tell people what's going to be in it, and I can say, oh yeah, eventually you'll be able to do this, eventually you'll be able to do that, but that's not as helpful as being able to play, I guess, sort of like mini prototypes of those areas of the game. So, for example, there's no system to unlock the other rooms at the moment. So we've got all of these other rooms you can have. If I go in here, all of these blue rooms, like the auto market that lets you sell items like way more than the gnome shop. The collection, which is like a little art gallery where you get a relic, and then if you've got a key you can get the second relic, or you can kind of climb along the top and drop through. These blue rooms are like the things you unlock later on in the game, and at the moment the only way I have to test them is to just like force the init to have a different deck of rooms, but there's no way to actually unlock them as part of the game loop at the moment. And at the moment, that's the kind of next thing I need to really focus on, really, is getting that in so that players have a sense of their goal and what they're trying to do in the long term of the game. Okay, we've got some stew sprites, so I'm just going to pop them onto the objects. This is supposed to be the meat stew, and this is the veg stew. And then what I'm going to do in a minute, when we've got a few more of these, I'm going to do one more, and then I will leave the rest because I've got some other stuff I need to do today. But what I will do to test is I will make a room that has a pre-lit cauldron in, and that will make it a lot quicker to test this. Actually, no, I'm just going to test that with that because I can do more of these next time I'm on, or just later in the week. So if I go to rooms, what's the easiest way to do this? Room drafting. What I want is a tiny little room that just has a cauldron in. I'm going to call it a kitchen. And then I'm going to put it in my deck 4 times so that it's very easy to get the stuff you need to cook. Yeah, okay, so we're going to make kitchen. I'm only copying this room because it's the right size and shape, so I have my own little weird level editor for this now, I guess. So we're going to making this from a red room into a grey room, so I take away all of this stuff. Maybe the kitchen is a green room, I don't know. Whoa. I've done what I always do. I always do that. I open up an asset, I copy it, and then I end up working over the copied asset instead of the... and end up working over the original asset instead of the copied one. Very annoying. Okay, just need to reset my layout because I've lost my room controls. Poops out blueprints. I was going to make it so that they use the gold on the blueprints, and then feeding the wizard something he hasn't had before will just make him like give you a heart container, because that means that I can have a limited amount of heart containers, and you get them all by doing something nice for someone. Not that he's going to be a very nice wizard. My intention is for him to be an unpleasant wizard. Stretch the pixel art, naughty naughty. So these are facades which go on the back of the room, and then they basically are used to check whether the player is in a room, because when they're not in a room they start to freeze. And maybe the kitchen should be like, I don't know, the kitchen's kind of a cozy room, isn't it? So what do I have that's a green facade? Cave. And that doesn't look very cozy, but I'm generally, the kind of general idea is that grey rooms have traps and treasure in, and green rooms are sort of crafty, makey rooms. So there won't be anything in green rooms that can hurt you normally. There'll be stuff in grey rooms that can hurt you, but only if you really take a risk, because it will be like saw blade traps and stuff like that. And then red rooms are just always have something scary or bad in. And then what I'm hoping is I can add this room to the rotation, and I can have a cauldron in here that is always, I can edit the variables and just have it so it's always lit. Okay, so what I need to do actually is have a variable definition here. Which is usually false. And then I go back to my kitchen room and make it true in that room. So when you draw off the kitchen, you get a cauldron that is already lit. And then I just need to check that that updates the animation and stuff like it should do. No. Okay, if lit equals true and then that just allows us to have another room that is going to be easier to cook with. Because at the moment, the cooking mechanic is just, it's really buried. You have to do quite a lot just to get that first cauldron lit. So if I have one room that has a pre-lit cauldron in, then that is going to help solve that problem and teach people to use that mechanic. I'm very like free and easy with adding new rooms because it's very quick for me to do now, and I can sort of put them in and take them out very easily. Okay, basic room. I have to set the Y offset of the room so that players open the door and they're in the right place. And then I have to do all of this other stuff to basically save the little screenshot and save the state of that room that you saw me make, so that it could be loaded into memory. So all of this stuff, Room Loader is a library that I incorporated like 2 weeks ago, because I went on the Discord community for GameMaker and I was like, hey, making these rooms by saving like a sort of list of XY locations for blocks is really time consuming. And then someone showed me this library they've made, and it's made this game just generally way easier to work on. And then what I'm going to do is repeat that 4 times so that we get 4 kitchens, which there won't be in the actual starting deck, but it just is a quick debug thing. Brainoid asked about void rooms. There is a void room, and basically when you run out of rooms, you start getting voids, and it just creates the door opens and there's an empty space. So that's kind of one of the ways of ending your run. If you're lucky enough to get enough keys, you can basically run out of rooms in your deck, and then you start drafting void. And I'm thinking maybe eventually there'll be some sort of condition where some sort of condition where eventually you can like have voids shuffled into your deck for other reasons. Oh, that's weird. Code is broken. Hang on. I know what's happening there, though. I think it's something to do with the inheritance of the stew object. So, what are you doing, stewy meat? Okay, you're not a potion. You can't go in a potion. So you'll notice it's called potion ingredient because I was originally going to use the cauldron for potions, and then I thought food actually fitted the rest of what the game needed to do better, because it's something you make and sell rather than make and use for a magical effect. And I sat with the idea of potions for a long time, and I couldn't really get to a point where they seemed like a good idea for what the game was. Yeah, I like those kind of trade-offs. You get a thing, but you also get a void room. I mean, we've got a relic system as well, so that's the sort of thing where you can have rules that are like, every time you do this, this happens. I haven't got many relics that have like a trade-off like that yet, and I think part of that is because I don't have a very easy way to communicate what the relic does before the player picks it up, but... Okay, that's good. And then what we don't have is we haven't cleared out the... Look at this guy, his big bowl of soup. It's so big. You should totally get a chef's hat if you've made one. Look at him go. I've got some soup. I throw it up there, it gets stuck in a tree. What's going on with that? I know why that is. It's because I based them on the berry, and the berry has some weird logic so that it can hang in a tree. That's so funny. Yeah, I need to... There's a bunch of physics stuff with all of the objects, really, that I need to... Right, that can go. That is not needed. So there's some code here to handle when a berry is in a tree. And it's just making things confusing. Okay, last little thing I want to fix was the ingredients not being cleared out from the cauldron after you make something. So let's see why that's happening. Step event. No, it's the collision with the items that does the cooking. I think maybe we would make a short delay between putting the second item in as well. So... So when alarm 1 goes off, we run all the code we did before to make the food. Okay, so first and second ingredient are getting reset. But the problem is in the draw event, the ing sprite. Ing sprite is ingredient sprite to show what ingredient is already in the pot, and that needs to be set to no one as well. So no one is just like how you void a variable that's used for like an instance reference. The flying soup. I love these ideas. I feel like they're better to us than like a random person playing the game. They'd be like, why can I make a bowl of soup and then fly on it? I guess you can, because it's a magical world. A flying soup. Someone also mentioned that they want the coins to be bigger. I'm not sure. Maybe I could double the size of the coins. I'm not sure. Be too much yellow all over the screen. Okay, we'll build a cellar there. Oh, I've cut myself off. I can't go in there now. These poison clouds are quite forgiving unless you stand right in them. Might have to make that harder later on. Got a market. Got a kitchen. Okay. So I really like the microwave ping sound for the cooking. That was my partner's idea. It's very good. Oh. Having some collision weirdness with that. No, I think something I just did is making that not work. Okay, I'll have a look at that and then we'll see if we can fix it. So, just check it's doing the same thing. Yeah, it doesn't accept the second item when you throw the second item in, so I've done something weird there. I'll be able to find that pretty quick. Okay, so when we throw an item in... Okay. This is happening because it's setting the sprite to be like bobbing in the pot. So this is all still occurring properly. And maybe I don't need that bit of this chain. I don't need to worry about the speed of the thing. I was trying to kind of catch it dropping in, but I need to be able to just stand next to it and press B and it will still work. Oh, yeah, I've used the wrong alarm number, of course. That was part of the problem. We need to destroy the second ingredient there, actually. So I think I've probably... do tend to find, and this is probably just how I code, and which isn't very good or efficient, but adding delays to things... if I don't do it the first time I do the thing, then it often takes a very long time, and that's because we've got like just how the way that the variables are sort of saved for the thing and which ones are temporary and which ones aren't. Then you're trying to make it span across 2 events, and it kind of introduces some pain in the butt type stuff. What are you doing in there? Okay, so what's happened there is the carrot spawned on top of the thing and then immediately collided with it, which is also why I've got this this speed check. But I'll do if other dot rooted equals true, then other dot rooted equals false. And that just means that before it takes the sprite from the other object, it will check if it's rooted and unroot it. And yeah, that will catch that situation. Yeah, you're totally right. Although I think it, you are right that you should use double equals for checks rather than assignments, but this works. So I don't know why it works that way, but it just does. GML is incredibly forgiving on like sloppy practice, and that's why it's what I use. The other thing I want to do, just to round this session off and make the items we just added have some meaning, is we can go here and we can say, okay, making a stew. Making a veg stew gives you, I don't know, 45. And making a meat stew gives you 60. So these are the prices that the trade wagon. I know people will have ideas about how I can do this better, but at the moment I just do what reads easily for me. I literally only just learned what structs were in the last week or so, so I'm very, very behind on that side of things. In just general anything to do with like data management stuff. So the other thing is I don't really intend there to be loads and loads of these objects, so it's the sort of thing where I might pursue a bit more learning on these subjects if I knew that I needed to make hundreds and hundreds of stuff, but I'm not intending to make a game with more than about 20 recipes either. I mean, the thing to remember, I mean, people are free to have sort of programming methods chats in the chat. Like, I'm not going to police that, and if that's what you find interesting, that's fine. But yeah, fundamentally, I'm doing what works for me quickly, and when I need to learn a new thing, I do kind of buckle down and learn it. But at the moment, it's just like, okay, so that must have spawned with 2 things right next to it. But at least now we get the state where it does kind of reset. So does a mushroom and an egg make something? I don't think it does. But yeah, I mean, basically, I don't have any computer science background at all. So a lot of programming talk goes completely over my head, which is why I have the flying soup, which I think is something to do with the collision box on that particular sprite, because there isn't any difference between that object and the omelette object. And one of them is doing that and one of them isn't, which is quite funny. But the foods have gone all up into space now. But I've got Yeah, so for example, the food's flying up into space would be a higher priority bug to fix than whether I need to use single or double equals marks. I've got like a little bug on those platforms occasionally as well, so I will be doing a big run on these things at some point, but not on a stream because it is not fun. I had someone else kind of fix how the drop-through platforms work for me recently, and he's caught like 95% of instances, but there's still the occasional moment where you manage to get caught slipping through the thing. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with how much progress we've made today, particularly on this UX thing of what happens when you open a door, because I feel like it's just communicating that resource spend a lot better than what we had before. And I can kind of finesse the pixels and the particles and the timing and stuff a fair amount, but yeah, that's just a much better communication, because the first couple of playtesters were really confused by the keys and the fact that opening every door cost a key. So now we have a delay, we open a door, you see the key come down from the corner, the door flashes the color of the key as well, which maybe helps to communicate that a little bit. It's not super clear, but that is a big improvement from where we were. And then, yeah, we've got some more stuff into the food and cooking system, which is good because it was kind of, just a sort of prototype of that system. It didn't have other things in it. Oh, look, that carrot is doing the same thing it did before. I think I probably just need to have a special catch for when it's that sprite and I turn it into the other sprite, because again, I'm not going to have loads of different food items. I've got like one vegetable and one fruit and stuff like that, kind of following the logic they follow in Minecraft when they develop new mobs and stuff like that, is that they don't add duplicates of things that just do the same thing. Hello, Mr. Gnome. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I thought we'd done that. I thought we'd done object stew veg. Oh, I called it the wrong thing. That's why. So I'm getting a bit of a slowdown when I come out of the demo, when I come out of the playtest. Yeah, I know what it is. It's because I've got this struct here that names them a particular way, and then I didn't name it the same way in the actual bit where the trade is happening. There's a reason for that, and that's because some things are like, there are two items that count as the same thing in terms of the thing. So yeah, this should be, this shop prices reference should just be stew veg rather than object stew veg. Curse you, gnome! Actually, before we run that again, I will just create a special case for if ing sprite equals So if we have that situation where we start with a vegetable accidentally going into the pot, then the sprite will just automatically change. And then also, I think one way I can also solve that is just to make sure that there aren't any dirt pots right next to the kitchen. So the way the kitchen, well, the way that the game currently works is any any soil block can spawn those root vegetables. I haven't played Voices of the Void, unfortunately. I might have it on my to-do list. I have like the games that get submitted for the channel, and then I have a list of just games I would like to play someday soon. And I feel like I recognize that game name, so I don't know if it's one where I have it on the list already. Mate, my soup goes up in the air. Okay. Just wanna sell bro some stew. You don't want it. Oh, hang on. Ah, I've been a fool. I left this in, and it shouldn't be here anymore. Because I made a script for this. I made a initialize shop economy script, and that's where these things live now. Okay, so a vegetable stew is worth more than an egg, but less than the things that require egg and dairy to cook, because they are harder to cook. And then the meat stew is the same as the Scotch egg, because oh no, the Scotch egg should be like a deluxe item, because that's quite hard to make. It's like you need to kill a thing and get an egg from a thing. Okay, that should solve that. I'm glad you feel horror and cozy at the same time, because that's kind of what I'm going for. And that part of that is just like my personal sort of aesthetics of like what I am interested in terms of world building. But I also think it kind of fits the game mechanics, because basically if you do a run of this and you only build mostly green rooms, then you have like a Dizzy the Egg platformer where all you do is walk around and help people and there isn't any peril, right? So you can have a run of the game where you are not really doing anything dangerous and nothing's trying to kill you, and then it is kind of cozy. So it is a deliberate mix of things that has kind of come out over time of like me experimenting with like what I'm interested in and what I'm capable of achieving in terms of my art style and stuff. So yeah, nonchalant goth. It is. There we go. Excuse me, I've made you a soup. Why did you only give me 2 coins? This is the bug that I was showing you guys right at the start. Where sometimes it doesn't read the value things properly and it's just like, no, you can have 2. It's like, that should be like 80. I'm going to try and find out what it is now. Because I have 2 types of shop. I have that one and the futuristic one. And they both operate slightly differently in terms of how they give you your coins. So we set coins left at the start. We have a coin speed, which is how quickly they kick out. We have alarm 0 and alarm 1. And alarm 0 is kicking out the coins. What does alarm 1 do? I have no idea what alarm 1 does. Because it's been a while since I looked at it. I should have put a note on that. If items are less than 1 and coins left is less than 1, then it closes. It doesn't let you do anything. But we're not getting to that stage because that's when he kind of shuts up shop after you've sold him 3 items. So if value is nothing, then do nothing here. Else, if it's open for business and other dot held, so the other item isn't being held by the player. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've never really got into learning Unity. I would rather use an engine that is very specialized for doing a specific type of thing. I also just don't like the workflow for making 3D art, and I want to make games where I've sort of made everything, at least initially. Okay. Coins left, add the value. The value comes from that global shop prices struct. Sometimes it's right. This is definitely getting incremented, otherwise we wouldn't get any coins spawning on the alarm event. Yeah, I don't know. I might have to leave this one and come back to it tonight. Since there's 80 coins, 80 of that function happens simultaneously and is messing with the value. Interesting theory. Let me have a look. So no, the reason I'm using the alarm is because the coins left variable. Basically, if the way this works, if I initialize coins left to be 999, then as soon as we open that room and find that merchant, he will just start spitting out coins. So it's like a teller machine where every however many milliseconds he spits out a coin, but he only spits out a coin if you've inserted stuff of that value, which is it's weird because it's like he's not reading the value of the objects properly. But that's not like it's one of those weird situations where it's like I can't see the thing that's going wrong is a thing that is very, very simple. So it's going to be something really stupid that I just can't see because of it shouldn't be complex. I have plus equals because I want to increment it by that amount, because if he's already paying out for the last object you throwed at him, he needs to like add the values together. So if you sell an item that is worth 20 and then you immediately sell an item that's worth 30, he owes you 50 and he'll be gradually working through that 50. Yeah, so that's what happens if I preset him to 999 coins being owed. So the spawning of the coins is going to be working as far as I can tell. The issue is communicating the value of the item to that point. So yeah, I don't really want to only be able to sell one thing at a time, though. I want to be able to like yeet 2 things at him really quickly and he picks them both up and then... I'm a big fan of a coin fountain. I need to jump off now anyway because I have a work call coming up very soon. I will work this out. It's a bug that has been in here for a little while, but I haven't really taken any time to try and dig into it. Yeah, so I just it's going to be something really dumb, just like something is named wrong. Going to be something. It might even be something to do with this stuff where, like, basically I tried to make it so that the animation of him throwing the coin speeds up or slows down depending on how many coins there are to give. I probably just need to go back through and rework some of that math. I probably got something wrong there, but it's been a bug since I implemented him, and that's only been a few days ago, and I haven't really gone back to it and tried to really dig into why it's doing that. But occasionally he gives the right amount and then occasionally he doesn't. And I haven't worked out if that's based on which object it is or... See, that looks like it was probably the right amount. I've got 28 now. I don't know, it's like 15 or something, which I think is what it should be for like a just a random vegetable you've just picked out of the ground. But yeah, I don't have time to dig fully into that right now. But we got some more recipes that fly for some reason, so I need to look into why these particular objects are doing that. It's probably something to do with like the gap between the registration point on the object and the sprite size. Yeah, that was definitely worth more than 2, mate. He's just really stingy. He's a stingy gnome. Right, thank you all for joining. And I will see you all soon. I'm going to shut this down.